Hello, and welcome to Setting the Standard, the podcast about wireless radio standards creation from the Wireless Innovation Forum. I'm your host and Communications Director of the Forum, Stephanie Hamill. In this episode, I'm talking with the Forum's Chief Regulatory Officer, Prakash Marut, Senior Director of Spectrum and Regulatory Affairs for Shure, about the Regulatory Advisory Committee. The group had been inactive for a time, and Prakash revived it to tackle a variety of spectrum-related topics with representatives from around the globe.
Hi, Prakash. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Stephanie. Good to be here.
So today we're talking about the Regulatory Advisory Committee, and the Forum has had this group for quite a while, but it's been inactive. Why did you reinvigorate the group?
Yeah, so the wireless industry and then regulators like to harmonize regulations for spectrum usage. And there were already three things happening recently. The first thing was that regulators were looking at spectrum sharing as a new way to unlock spectrum, especially to enable new use cases. The other thing that was happening, especially outside of the US and in Europe in particular, with Germany, UK, and other countries, was that they were providing dedicated spectrum for localized use of spectrum so that you can cover an enterprise, a campus, etc. And then the third thing really was about unlocking unlicensed spectrum like the 6 gigahertz band. And that's not just in US, but what's happening worldwide. So I thought that instead of each country developing its own framework and then reinventing the wheel every single time, it would be a great opportunity to provide a common platform for these regulators to come together along with key wireless industry players to share ideas, thoughts, lesson learned, so that we can then share ideas and then come up with some productive, I guess, output that can then be used by different regulators as they set up the regulation for these different spectrum bands. So what was really the main motivation is just to create a platform for information sharing that can help then in defining the regulation in different countries.
Gotcha. And how do you envision the role of the group in terms of its impact on the Forum and its activities?
Yeah, so one thing we've done is to get the different people working in the Wireless Innovation Forum to come and share the work that we've done, for example, on the Citizen Broadband Radio Service specification, so the CBRS work that we've done for many years now. So as a regulator in Europe or other countries develop, spectrum sharing framework, they can learn from what we've done here in US and in WinForum in particular. For example, one thing we've done, which was I think very important, is to get all the key stakeholders in the same room to come up with a framework and then specification. So we had involvement from NTIA, the US Department of Defense, Fixed Satellite Service, key wireless industry players, etc., SaaS providers, and then we were able to develop the SaaS specifications, for example. I'm not saying that the CBRS spectrum access system, for example, can be used as is in other countries. What I'm saying is that there are components of what we've done here that can be leveraged outside of the US to enable spectrum sharing, for instance. But also, what's also important is that we need to listen to the regulators because they are dealing with unique requirements. For example, they don't need to deal with the military, so maybe the CBRS framework as defined is too complex for their needs. So we need a simplified version of the CBRS framework that they can use because we are dealing with other incumbents, not with the US military. So yeah, again, it's just about sharing the great work we've done in the WinForum and then listening to the requirements that regulators may have, and hopefully again coming up with some recommendations, etc., that can then be used everywhere.
Right. And we do have participants from all over the world. So what kinds of contributions are you getting from these different countries?
Yeah, so we've had, for example, regulators from Germany and UK actually talk about some of the local licensing rules they've developed that have enabled them to cover campuses, enterprises, etc. So that I think was a great framework that can be shared with other countries. In US, for example, we don't have a similar framework, so maybe that's something that FCC, for example, could look into. If you want to provide a spectrum to cover just a small area, that could be an interesting framework to study. And then similarly, as I mentioned already, for the CBRS ban, we've had people talk about CBRS specifications, lessons learned, and I know that regulators outside of the US found this very interesting. And then the other topic that was also very interesting to everyone is 6 gigahertz ban. It's a band that's being unlocked for unlicensed use everywhere, and we've done some great work here in the Wind Forum, and other regulators also looking into 6 gigahertz band, worldwide. So they are dealing with similar incumbents, the fixed satellite service incumbent as well as the fixed links incumbents. So for example, we are working on the automated frequency coordination system specification here in the Wind Forum. So as other countries look at how to coexist with the fixed service links, there's definitely some some work we've done here in Wind Forum that can be relevant to them. And we've been also filing comments to consultations by ICED in Canada and other regulators, really just to share the work that we've been doing in the Wind Forum. And I know based on the feedback received that the regulators have found this interaction and exchange of information very, very useful to them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, well, so moving forward, how do you see the group going?
Yeah, first thing I want to do is just expand the scope of a group. We've had a lot of participation from Europe, a couple of countries in Asia Pacific region, and then one regulator in South Latin America. I want to have more regulators participate from all of these regions. We've also had ICED, I forgot to mention ICED in Canada, but I really want to expand, especially in the Middle East and Africa. I know there are regulators there looking at spectrum sharing in 3.8 gigahertz band and other bands, and I think just getting them to be involved, I think would be useful. Same in in Asia Pacific region. I know there are several regulators looking into spectrum sharing, for example. But then the other interesting thing is, as I mentioned, there's this new framework called local licensing that I think could be useful also for the US, and these regulators, as they look into this in their own country, they can come and share their experience here in US, and then hopefully then this can also be studied and see if it can be applied here in the US also. So yeah, just increasing the scope by increasing the number of participants and regulators, and then the other thing is also maybe to look at new use cases, how to enable access to spectrum by other applications like wireless, cameras, wireless mics. We've been focusing a lot of mobile in the Wind Forum. Why not look at some other use cases, because they also need spectrum. And I think if we can start some projects like we've done, for millimeter wave or drones, etc., that could also be useful to some other use cases. Because I think, as I said, all of these wireless technologies need spectrum anyway, and I think there's an opportunity for us to expand beyond just mobile. So, thanks.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, and I will be sure to put in the show notes how to get involved with the forum so they can be involved in any of these projects you mentioned.
Yep, great, thanks.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Prakash, and I will be talking to you soon.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.